Let's get ready to rumble!
Thank you, Stephanie. Welcome, everyone. My name is Hans Meilschots from HRTECH Valley, and today we're having the webinar HRTECH Back2back about learning and development. We already had our first session about recruitment, and the feedback was very okay. People asked me about the hat. Well, let's just say, call me the Don King of HRTECH. Also, another feedback was I screwed up the introduction of Stephanie, so I'm going to try to make that one up. Stephanie is a lecturer at Thomas More, but more important, she's our ring official today. And well, Stephanie, actually, for me, that's about it. The floor is yours. What have we got to learn today?
Okay, thank you, Hans. Yeah, and you've asked me to wear stripes, like a official ring, official, but unfortunately I don't have that. But today we are covering learning and development, and we have the pleasure of having two excellent HRTECH providers here. We will start with FlowSparks, and the accent is on the flow. And actually, I just learned they were recently awarded by Best HR Game Changer of the Year. So it's very promising what we will see today. So impress us, Cedric. The floor is yours.
Let's get ready to rumble!
Okay, hi, welcome all of you. And thanks, Hans and Stephanie, for giving me the opportunity to speak today. So I'll try to share my screen. I'll use a presentation to start with, and then I'll show you some examples as well. So first of all, I'm Cedric Harrigot. I work as the Chief Commercial Officer at FlowSparks. FlowSparks is a Belgian company. We have our headquarters based in Ghent. I'm actually sitting now in our headquarters in the Gilamco Arena, which is, as you probably know, the football stadium of the Ghent football team. But actually, our colleagues are working all across the country in the different meat district locations. We also have offices in Eindhoven, and together we count around 60 employees at this moment, but are still growing. You can see here on the slide that we've been around more than 20 years in the online learning market. And I think this is a good start to tell you how we came to the company, but more specifically, the product of FlowSparks. So we were founded in 1997. We were called UNI Learning back then. So we were basically a custom e-learning development agency. So what we did is a customer asked us for a specific training, whether it was about safety, compliance, or maybe a product training. They would give us all the content, and we would create the online training and deliver that training to them. So it would be a package, a digital training module that we would deliver to the customer. Now, of course, it didn't take too long before customers started asking us questions like, wouldn't it be nice if we would be able to create like smaller e-learnings ourselves, or maybe make adaptations or updates to the content that you've provided? Because of course, as you know, knowledge is evolving rapidly, and think of what just happened with the Corona crisis, right? So a lot of the safety trainings, I think, in most companies needed to be adapted, and they needed to add new safety measures for Corona specific in this case. So that's what led us to the idea of creating a product which is called FlowSparks. In 2017, we launched it in Belgium, and this changed our company completely. So as of 2017, we started focusing not only on creating online learning materials tailor-made for our customers, but also creating a product that helps our customers do this themselves. And of course, to make adaptations to things that we've created for them. This changed the company completely, to this extent that in the beginning of this year, we've even changed the name of the company to FlowSparks as well. Now, where is FlowSparks being used, and how many people are using it already? So we have more than 1,600 customers, over 2 million participants, and the product is being used already in more than 159 countries all over the world. Now, FlowSparks as a product is a learning content management system. So it's an LCMS. So the CMS the content management system, it stands for actually what we call an authoring tool. And an authoring tool is actually a tool that you can use to create online learning materials, e-learning modules, digital training modules, whatever you would like to call it. To create them, you need an authoring tool. A good comparison I always make is if you want to create a presentation, you probably use PowerPoint, right? So PowerPoint is actually an authoring tool that you use to create presentations. Well, then FlowSparks is an authoring tool that you use to create online learning content. Now, as I said before, the question has been around for years of customers, wouldn't it be nice if we could do that ourselves and if we could make adaptations ourselves? And the answer is actually technically always yes, right? Because if we can do it, of course you can do it as well. But there are some constraints there, because to be able to do this, you need a very easy to use authoring tool. Of course, this is what FlowSparks does. But the problem with authoring tools in general is the most authoring tools, they require a lot of different skill sets. Like, for instance, you need to be a didactical expert. You need to have, you need to be a graphical designer. You need to know something about graphical design, UX design, and you need to be very technical. And this is where FlowSparks comes into play, right? So what we've done is we've created something in FlowSparks, what we call learning formats. And these are basically templates that support the author, not only technically and graphically, but also didactically. Meaning, if they want to reach a certain learning goal, they have a specific learning format to do that. For instance, you want to create awareness, then we have a learning format that we call the bigger picture. And this bigger picture has a specific flow of presenting and testing and practicing content, with as an end goal, always creating awareness. And this is how the system makes it very easy for anyone to create online learning materials using our tool. Of course, there's also an L in the LCMS that is what we call the learning management system. The learning management system is basically a platform where people can log in based on their profile. They will see specific trainings that they can or must follow. And of course, the system will also make sure that everything is being logged and that there's reporting, so HR can see, okay, who has done which training, did they pass the test, yes or no, how long did it take them, etc. Very important to mention here is I'm going to be talking a lot about online learning, but of course, an LMS will also manage classroom trainings, right? So blended trajectories are also possible, but today I'm going to focus on the digital learning part. And on the right-hand side, you see the FlowSparks Fastpass. This is something specific that we've added to the system because there's one big problem with platforms is you need a login and you need to be able to authenticate the person that's coming into the system. And if you look at what you're probably using on a day-to-day basis, right? Your Facebook, your Instagram, maybe even your TikTok today, you always have a login and a password. And for that, in most cases, you need an email address. But this is, in some cases, this can be a very big problem because imagine that you are targeting, let's say, blue-collar workers in general, blue-collar workers, contractors, external people. Not all of them have a professional email address. And then how do you get this online learning content to them, and how are you able to report on what they've done and whether they've done it successfully? That's where the Fastpass comes in. Of course, we grew from a service company, and it's of course a pillar that we left in the company because we're still, of course, giving e-learning services to our customers. Now, our customers have some challenges that they are facing on a day-to-day basis. I'm going to go through them pretty quickly because I want to have some time left to show you some cases. But in general, I think localization of content is a big thing. A lot of companies, they've created content. Of course, they want to reuse it in other locations. Could be in the same country, but could also be abroad. Could be in other languages. Could be for different target audiences. And then there's always the question, how do I do this? How do I make sure that it's being translated easily? How do I make sure that I can reuse content without having to update it every time I make a small adaptation 10 times in a row? So this is a very big challenge for L&D or HR professionals who are working with digital training. in most cases is what we see is that learning and development traditionally is the only driver for creating online learning content. And this is a bummer, right? Because not all HR or L&D teams consist of tens of people, or sometimes even in bigger companies, it's only one or two people. They don't have the time to create everything themselves, because creating online modules requires time and skill, and also skills which they don't necessarily have. Think of the graphical design part, and especially also the technical parts. But also, there's also one very important part of the expertise that you need to have. That's expertise about the content, because if you're creating a safety training, you will meet someone who has expertise about safety, right? So it will always be something that L&D will need to learn first before they can translate it into a training. And there, I think it's very important that these people have the option to decentralize this creation, where L&D is not the person or the department that needs to do everything themselves, but that they are able to coach or to help the business to create online learning content themselves. As I said before, hassle of applying changes, updates to e-learnings, I think that's a very big challenge for any company, because as you know, and Corona, it's maybe the one positive thing with Corona is that they've, rapidly made digitization evolve even quicker than before. Is that knowledge is changing very quickly, and content content and in general is as well, and it's not always something you can predict. Think of legislations, regulations, things that happen like Corona right now. How do you update this? How do you manage this without having to go back to a supplier, asking for an offer, then getting that offer processed and turned into an order? Then it needs to be planned at the supplier side. So it takes too much time for sometimes small things that they could easily do themselves. And then, of course, reaching target audiences. As I said before, not everyone has access to the LMS, but this goes even broader than this. Think of people who don't have a computer. They don't have a PC or a desktop or a laptop from the company. So can you reach them using mobile phones? Can you reach them using tablets, through kiosks? And how do you manage this? And then last but not least, I think, is a one-size-fits-all. E-learning or digital learning has been around for years now. But the general idea was still, you make one e-learning module, and you can reuse it an unlimited amount of times. You can distribute it all over the world. So you have 100,000 employees, just as an example. You make one training, and this training is for everyone. Now, one size fits all, it doesn't always work, right? Because in some cases, it could be that there's need of localization. In terms of, it could be different in the US than in Europe or than in Asia, for instance. But on the other hand, there could also be a difference in knowledge of the people following the course. You could have people that have been in your company for years and need to do the same compliance training every year. You could have people that are working at the Leisure Group today, but they've had a history of working at Carrefour. Of course, they do have some knowledge already, which a newbie that just comes out of school won't have. But you will still give them the same training, and that's strange. And there we see that customers are looking more to adaptive learning. Something we can do as well with FlowSparks, by the way, is that you could start with an intake test, and depending on the score per category of questions on a test, you will get some exemptions in the training program, making it for more experienced people. It will make the learning trajectory way shorter. It will, avoid a lot of frustrations for them, because they need to do it each year in a lot of companies. And, for the newbie, he will probably get not so much exemptions, and he will need to do everything. But for him, it's necessary, because in the end, they need to reach the same level of expertise. Now, in terms of our customers, this is just an example, because we have a lot of them, so it's hard to put everything on one slide. But the idea here is to show you that there's not one sector where FlowSparks is being used. You can see that we're working with banks, we're working with retail companies, we're working with pharmaceutical companies, the heavy industry, to the chemical industry, to the government, etc. So there's not a real restriction of where you can use the tool. The only thing, of course, you can see is that they're all medium-sized to bigger companies, because of course you can imagine if you have a hairdresser who has 2 employees, he will probably have no use of an authoring tool and a learning management system to train these 2 people. I think there are very much more effective ways to do this. Now, as I said before, I wanted to go quickly through the slides because I think cases will give you very much better understanding of what we're doing with our customers. And the first example that I have is Eastern Chemical Company. Eastern Chemical Company is, of course, a chemical company. This is a production plant that's actually also based in Ghent. And they have a small L&D department, but they have a lot of employees and, of course, a lot of technical knowledge. There comes, the challenge of decentralizing this creation of content, because you can't ask one person to do all of this because it's so much content. It's so specific content as well that it's hard for one person to manage and to develop and maintain all of this. So they decided to decentralize it and let people in the production. So people really like this. In this case, the module that you're seeing right now is about filters. This is being created by an operator working in the factory, of course, a training from operator to another operator. And he built this completely himself, right? So it's very nice to see. They add some questions. It's very specific content, of course. I don't know the details, the PPEs that you need to use, to even, I think, small videos that they've added that they've just filmed with a smartphone, right? But it's a very good example of how you can create specific content for specific target audiences and decentralize this. Of course, there's a reviewing structure and process in the company so that the manager does check whether all the content is correct before it's being published to the colleagues. But it's a very nice example of how you can decentralize this within your company. Now, another thing which you hear a lot is pre-boarding, onboarding, all these buzzwords, right, that you hear a lot. But in this case, the LAN has been working very hard on this. So the LAN is, of course, the public transportation company in Flanders. And they have what they call a welcoming module. And as you can see, if I go down for the people that are speaking Dutch in this call, is that this is a module that they get before they even sign the contract. So it's an introduction where they get to know the company. So the LAN, what do they stand for? What are they doing? Some testimonials of colleagues, some facts and figures about the company. So this is actually more like an introduction. Of course, this is only being sent to people who are already in a certain stage of applying to work at the LAN. But there they can also leave some personal information, upload a photo, and this information is then used to create their profile once they start to create their contract. And of course, imagine, hopefully for the LAN, they choose to start working at the LAN. Then comes in the pre-onboarding process where they have a complete training that people get access to from the moment they sign to work at the LAN. So even before their first day at work, they get access to this. And here they can find a lot of information to help them prepare for the first day of work at the LAN. It can be about HR, it can be about ICT, well-being, communication, etc. And for instance, I'll just open one. But this is also a good example of what I've mentioned before, is that, content, regulations, legislations, everything's changing so quickly. And it's the same with this, right? Some of the things that are in this training are very, they need a lot of adaptations over time. And I discussed actually earlier this morning, because I needed to get approval to show you this module with the people from the LAN. And they said as well, we're constantly adding new information of new departments, new topics that we need to add. So this is something that's constantly evolving. And for them, it's very important that they can do this themselves, without always having to come back to us. So we've talked about decentralizing content creation, pre-boarding, and of course, you also have what we call onboarding. And onboarding is when a person has decided to start at the company and he's on his first day of work. And I chose this example of Ago Jobs, the temping company, I think the number 4 now in Belgium, very nice company to work at, where you can see that they have a very big trajectory for new employees, with, of course, the standard welcome at Ahu, where they get a welcoming message from their CEO, explanation of what is Ahu doing, what do they stand for, what are their values, when were they founded, etc. And the very cool thing about this is that it's something that they're creating completely by themselves. So they're using our tool, our software, but it's something that they create and maintain autonomously, completely by themselves. Now, I do need to keep track of time. So to summarize a little bit, with FlowSparks, HR can, like I said, they can decentralize creation and maintenance of online trainings. I think that's an important one as well, because the operator, for instance, he's able to update the training himself. They can get insights in knowledge and learning curves of employees using the data and results in the system. They can digitize pre- and onboarding processes, and they can distribute and follow up on online and classroom trainings. Of course, they can be combined in a blended trajectory. Now, we offer multiple integrations with systems that are being used at our customers already, because although we offer the LMS, some of the bigger companies already have a corporate learning management system like SuccessFactors or Cornerstone or whatever, and our altering tool is completely compatible with these different systems. Now, we started off as a service company, so we're still offering training and support in how to use the tool, of course. And actually, more specifically, each of our customers gets a customer success coach. And a customer success coach is, let's say, a non-commercial single point of contact that they have that will guide them along their journey as a FlowSparks customer. Still, we develop e-learning tailor-made for our customers because there are still customers, like, for instance, Belfius, who choose to outsource the development of the bigger e-learning courses. But then again, they have so much content that they use FlowSparks to maintain all that content, because you can probably imagine that a lot of that content has to follow the existing and rapidly evolving legislations and regulations. Now, as a company, of course, we're constantly looking for new talent. We're growing rapidly in both countries and are starting to work with partners abroad as well. So if you would be interested, or you know someone, feel free to send them to our website and have a look at the open jobs. Now, as Stefanie already mentioned, we do have some time left normally for some questions. Are there people that have specific questions that I could maybe answer? No questions? It could be about the cases or about the tool.
I've got a question for you, Cedric.
Thank you, Hans.
I love the way you engage the creation of content inside the workforce, that is. And I see that the decentralization of it, that actually stimulates more or less the creator economy. So I'm asking you, is there some kind of content-ready marketplace where they also can offer the content they already made?
No, not for now, to be honest. Of course, we do have some customers like the Vlaamse Stichting Verkeerskunde. They have a website, mijnrijbewijsb.be, that's completely filled with content how to prepare yourself for your driver's license in Belgium. But I do know that some of our customers, like them, they've been working together, I think with BASF and with other customers of ours as well, for exchanging
exchanging
content.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
But there's no centralized marketplace where they can put it on and pull it off. That's not available yet. We do have, I think, a very well-known customer, which is Good Habits, that uses our engine, let's say, to create off-the-shelf content and sell it to the market.
Okay, thanks.
Then I see that there's another question from Briek Schoofs. The Fastpass, is it mainly for safety in companies' platforms? Yeah, the Fastpass, I didn't want to spend too much time on that one because we only had 20 minutes. The Fastpass is mainly being used for safety trainings. Why? Because mostly there you see the target audiences that don't have access to a learning management system. but it could be any type of training. So we've used it as well for a big international company that has a lot of sales reps. For some reason, these sales reps were not in the learning management system. So they chose to use a Fastpass to give them easy access to some product trainings. Luna Wimp asked whether it could only be used in Belgium and the Netherlands. Of course not. It's being used all over the world. We only have offices in Belgium and the Netherlands and have partners in some other countries. But actually, I work together with customers in the US, in the UK, in the Nordics, but we work with them all over the world, but from our offices in Belgium or Netherlands. Then I see that Ken also had a question. I might have missed it, but how much does it cost to use the platform? Well, that depends on what you want to use on the system, of the system. So as I said, it's a learning content management system. So it has an LMS part, it has an authoring part, and then you also have the Fastpass. Based on whether you use all three of them or only one or two out of the three, and then also again based on how many users do you have that will access the content, how many authors do you have, and how many features you will use of the authoring, the pricing will be completely different. And that's very specifically why, because of course the entire system is widget based, so the more you use, the more you pay. That's a bit of the idea. I hope that answers your question, because if I were to have a specific case, it would be easier to answer that one.
Cedric, one question from me,
Yeah.
please. So
Sure.
the data is stored with the customer, or is it cloud-based, or?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, the FlowSparks system is a cloud-based solution. So it's available from anywhere at any time. It's being kept up to date, so it's upwards compatible. It's pretty important for digital trainings, because if Microsoft or Apple decides to do an update, it could have been possible in the past that your content wouldn't work anymore. With FlowSparks, that's not the case. And everything's also responsive. That's maybe also important. So everything's being developed from the mobile first principle. So it will adapt to the screen that you're using. Okay, thanks, Ken. I see that you responded. Okay, Michael, thanks. Is the system also capable of other types of content besides video? Yes, it is. So of course you can add the traditional media elements like texts, sounds, video, and images. Of course, you can add a lot of interactive elements. So that's something it was hard for me to show you in this short presentation, but there's a big focus on interactivity. But you can also add not real VR content, because I like to be specific in my answers, not real VR content, but you can add 360 videos or 360 images, where you can, of course, navigate. It looks a little bit like, what's it called again? You have this application of Google as well, where you can walk through the streets. It's a bit similar. So you can, like for instance, the Laser uses it, where you can walk around in the store and you have different, elements where you can click on, and then there's an interaction, like some text, a video, a question, etc. Then Briek asked the question: do you have a lot of competitors in the e-learning development world? Well, it depends on how you look at it. And there are a lot of e-learning agencies that are working on, tailor-made e-learning content. In Belgium, you have actually only a few. Like for instance, in the Netherlands, you have a lot of them. In terms of what we are today, we're more evolving towards, of course, a software company. You have a lot of authoring tools. You have the big player is definitely Articulate and Adobe. I think these are our main competitors when we go to bigger companies, but they don't offer the solution like we have. So I've had reports of some big instances, and we have some global customers who did an RFP global, and they tend to say, and of course, in their specific questions that they had and needs that they had, that we are very unique worldwide. Hope that answers your questions. And Steven also said, you said that you target medium and bigger companies. What's your definition of small, medium, and bigger companies? Hard question. to be very open, if we actively target customers, meaning with the sales department, we will target plus 500 employees actively. Of course, in Belgium and the Netherlands, you have a lot of smaller companies. And I think there, to be honest, my smallest customer has only 3 employees, right? It's 3, and they create content for their customers. So that's also a possibility. But on general, I would say if you have around 200 employees, then you're a good fit, I think, with the product. If you have 5 employees, then it will only be worth doing this if you want to do something for your customers, but not for yourselves.
Maybe a last question from Katrijn then.
Katrijn asked, is the platform also easy to use on mobile devices? Or is it rather to use for longer learning journeys? No, actually, it's a very good question. No, the system works with micro-learning nuggets, which, of course, if you want, you can combine them, like you saw in the examples, into bigger training programs. But it doesn't necessarily have to be that way. So we have customers, for instance, in the harbor in Antwerp, where they have very short learning nuggets that people can follow on tablets or smartphones. So that's definitely possible. And I think it's actually a very good use case of the system. Okay.
Thank you, Cedric. For me, it was very inspiring. So thank you. We will take...
Let's get ready to rumble!
And so we are now starting the second piece where we listen to YouQualify, Bert Verdronk from YouQualify. Well, they also believe that the future belongs to learners. So as I understand, their mission is to match individuals with the jobs, training and coaching to make them happier, more future-proof. So Bert, looking forward to hear what YouQualify can offer to HR.
Yes, hi everyone, and welcome to this session, or at least my part of the session. I think it's a good idea to start a little bit with a slide about one of our products, which is called the Pocket Coach. One of the things that I remember is that there is a lot of tools out there on the market, and one of the things that we come across over and over again is that a lot of LMS systems, I'm not saying that FlowSparks is in that corner, but for example, Good Habits is that a lot of companies are using this, that only a minority of their users are actually using it frequently. So what we see is between 10 or 15 people of employees within any given organization are actually using it. 17% is higher and 20% is almost unseen. So what we see is that although people have access to a big catalog, not everyone is using it. So where we're coming in, we're revolutionizing the way people are learning, hence also our baseline Learn Different. And we want to make it accessible and impactful for everyone within the organization. So we are specialists in microlearning and social learning. So microlearning is in smaller chunks that people can actually learn new skills. For example, 3 to 5 minutes. So whenever they are ready, wherever and anytime on the mobile, they can learn whenever they feel like it. Social learning means that they are learning together through communities where people are exchanging experiences, where they're helping each other out when it comes to inspiring each other. For example, a mentor or a peer are changing or explaining things or giving examples, best practices, and so on. And so everyone learns, so the whole organization is actually propelled forward. So that's what we're trying to achieve, is to connect everyone in a learning organization, so that the organization, and not only all the participants, but everyone in the organization is actually moving forward. We work with a personalized content, so people can get individual learning tracks, and we adapt it to a mobile lifestyle. We believe that more and more people have these days a smartphone, and so we choose to deliver our solutions on the mobile. We are using best-in-class technology according to Fosway, also according to Gartner. We have about 1.6 million users on the platform these days, and one of the things that we're proud of is that, let's say, coming from an environment with most of our customers who are, like I said, between 10-15% on average, we can help them with the learning engagement to at least 80%. Obviously, we also provide a community manager that can guide and inspire participants across all kind of courses that we are delivering. One of the things that I notice is that a lot of people are unaware of these some of these numbers. So, for example, 80% of people who learn from a live or a digital training, they have forgotten it. 80% is forgotten after 1 month. On average, an employee takes 5 minutes a day to learn something, and only 17%, like I said, are engaged to coaching or learning. There is a 50% reduction in stress and burnout thanks to coaching and personal growth. One of the things that we also notice is that once you start learning and you start using the micro-learning environment, is that people can get addicted. And what we see is that sometimes they are getting a lot more, or they want to learn more, which is exactly what we want to achieve with our customers. Like I said, when employees gain access, 20% is on the high end, even if it's for free. So we want to do that in a different way. So our YouQual Pocket Coach is based on Teach on Mars technology. We are mobile first, mobile native, and we also help with Fidget Tool experiences. So Fidget Tool is where you can combine online and offline. So for example, when you are onboarding new employees in a company, one of the things that we elaborate on is that, for example, you get instructed, let's assume that you are the new employee, you get instructed to go to the reception of the company, and there you will see that there is a QR code. So with the QR codes, you get new instructions to go to building C, second floor, room 20. And you arrive there, which is the HR team. They welcome you, you have a nice chat, and they give you the next QR code so you can go to building B, where the sales team is, and so on. So you can get a nice tour of the company on your first day. And so we combine online and offline events together, which is blended into digital and physical and digital. My YouQual skills, like Stephanie was saying, one of the things that we do is we help you with finding out who you are, what your talents are, and so on. We have created together with Agoria Digital Skills Passport, so that gives you an overview. Let me give you a quick snapshot of how that looks like. What are the skills that you need by 2030? So these are all combined in 9 topics. And so you can get a dashboard where you scale yourself on the 27 skills that are the most important ones, digital skills, by 2030, where you are today, what you need to be having by 2030. And so you'll see that there is a skills gap, and then you can be properly trained. So when we are looking at using the Pocket Coach, there are different ways to actually use it. As you can see, there's a wall, there are games in there, there are overviews, there are different kinds of multimedia content that you can use. You can earn badges, you can win certain points. With those points, you can claim loyalty products in certain organizations, for example, a baseball cap, t-shirts, etc., and any goodies. Obviously, you can use the platform also to share content on different platforms like social media, where you can easily go and post content. So how is this applied? For example, this is for a cosmetic client, where you can say we have industry-specific products that we want to launch, or we have a service that we want to launch, and then obviously a micro learning module can be developed either by us, by the client, or co-created through both teams. And so you can see it's easy. For example, in this case, it's a beauty salon where they are bringing new products to the market, and so that the people who are working there can actually get a nice overview of what the products are, quickly look things up, and be very well informed before customers actually come to the shop and start asking questions about this. So for us, there are a couple of people involved. Obviously, there are ambassadors, there are influencers, there are mentors, and there are peers. So four types of people that can be helpful with developing a learning organization. And one of the things that we see is that when you have all these four, it's a walk in the park to actually get success within your organization. Our UQ Mission Center is the back office, so to speak, of the UQ Pocket Coach. We have 20 intuitive learning and content templates that can be used. One of the things that we often see is that a lot of people who are creating content are sticking to a few classic ones, but there are a number of games involved as well, because we believe in gamification and make it fun. One of the things that we see is that making it fun again for people to actually learn it inspires us to continue and build the next part. One of the things that we also see is that we can segment certain communities. So, for example, we can say, hey, people who are following, for example, courses about LinkedIn or about time management or about leadership, we can have specific communication and push communication that is going to their communities to actually engage people a bit more when they want to share or when they want to revisit content, that they get the newest ideas and the newest modules that are being activated right there, but also the place where they can exchange best practices, examples, questions can be asked. One of the things that we like to see more of in the future is integration with a workflow or LMS. So you see here, for example, Workday and Cornerstone, but also Microsoft Teams. And if you're wondering what the green logo is, that's WeChat. So WeChat is like WhatsApp, an Asian product with more than 1.5 billion users on it. So basically, from your WeChat, for example, with your manager, you can, with one click, you can say, hey, I want to follow this course, and then come to UQ Pocket Coach and actually learn that, and then go back to WeChat to show the badges or the points that you've collected going through that course. We have some off-the-shelf content. These tailor-made. So we obviously, based on the DigiSkills Passport, we have a DigiSkills Academy for those 27 skills that most people will need. We have some communication, language and presenting skills. Obviously, my background is in social media, so I've created a masterclass in how to really use LinkedIn. There's other topics that you can see. So here's an example of a few courses about LinkedIn. Let me share with you a case study. So one of the customers wanted to bring social learning communities and mobile learning at the earliest possible time, meaning with onboarding of colleagues, and they want them to be engaged and collaborative from the get-go. And so what we see, for example, with Vinci Energies, is that they have more than 1,800 different business units across the world. And so in some business units, there are only 10 people, but in others, there are 300 or 500 people. So it's a huge group of people. And it's not easy to pass on, for example, the culture and the DNA of the organization. So what Vinci asked to do is to create a mobile learning experience where they would combine synchronous and asynchronous learning. I guess that you guys know what that looks like. So synchronous is obviously when you have live sessions. Asynchronous is at your own pace. And so to get more efficiency, but also to start or helping to start collaborating between the different new joiners. The flexibility of the technology helped, so that they, because it's based on the smartphone and app, that they can actually learn throughout, even when they are offline. So what we sometimes see with LMS platforms is that there needs to be always a connection with the internet. We have another customer who is, for example, staffing on big boats for transportation of gas or containers or whatever, and in the middle of the sea, they're not always connected. So all of our modules can also be in a downloaded version, so there doesn't need to be any connection. Also in certain areas, for example, in Southeast Asia, not always connection is a reality there, because, for example, in the Philippines, they sometimes have blackouts, in India as well, and so there's no connection, but still people want to continue to learn, so we have overcome that. So back to the case of Vinci. So you will see that a training takes about just over 2 hours, and the loyalty rate is 94%, which is, you know, incredibly high. Like I said, it takes 2 hours for them to go through that onboarding program on average, and if 94% of the people actually go through that, that's a very good result. I brought with me another example. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Louis Vuitton. One of their brands is called Acqua di Parma. So they wanted to roll out, again, a bit of a product training over different countries. And within 1 month, they were able to deploy this to 100% of their target audiences. There are, by training people a bit properly, or let's say with this micro learning modules, what we see is that the average number of items per transaction was 7% higher, which is really interesting to see. And obviously, again, a completion rate of 98%, which is unseen. As a Belgian startup, we don't have thousands of customers yet, but we are in the process of growing fast. And I brought with me a few examples of companies. Some of them will probably known, some of them are probably unknown. Just to give you a bit of a taste of what we've been building so far. So Stephanie or Hans, I'm not sure if there are any questions.
Thank you, Bert.
Most welcome.
There are a few
So
questions. Yeah.
Yes, I see a question coming from Ken. Are the trainings exclusively available on the mobile devices? In principle, yes. We have an interface that goes to the web browser. So, for example, for in-company devices, so some customers have a specific point of sales devices where they are browser-based. We can run on that, but let's say about 99% of our customers are using a mobile phone where everything is running, or an iPad. A tablet is also obviously possible. It does support SCORM, and we are in the process of looking at LTI, but I'm not sure. I need to ask the developers, but SCORM, I'm 100% sure, because we have some cases where that is implemented. Thank you, Cedric, for your question. Anyone else with a question? It either means it was all clear, or you're thinking about your questions and you need more time.
I've got a question in the meantime, but I might have missed it. I might have missed it, Bert. My apologies if that's the case. But do you also focus on internal mobility with your learning with your Pocket Coach? Because that's what actually the result is, as I understood correctly. One follows courses and then.
So can you repeat your question?
So if I use the Pocket Coach of YouQualify, and I follow certain courses, does it stimulate me to also apply for other jobs in my company because I follow that courses? So does it stimulate internal mobility?
Yes, exactly. And also the other way around. So for example, if you want to apply for a certain job, but you see like, oh, I'm missing this and these skills, then you can first activate those skills on the mobile courses on the Pocket Coach, so you can be up to speed, and then actually apply for the job, and you become the ideal candidate.
Okay, and those skills are those credited, or are those just
yes?
you
so
know,
for example,
boxes
one of
with things?
No. So depending on what
Verified credentials.
Verified credentials.
Okay.
So so one of our customers, for example, is, like I said, they are training, for example, cooks on ships, and so they go for long trips, often 6 to 9 months in a time. And so what you see is that they, instead of learning 10 days classroom training or e-learning, they now have their lessons on their mobile phone. They download it whenever they have access. So, for example, when they subscribe to the school, they download their courses, and then so if internet drops, they can still learn. So some people, they are learning as usual. For example, those the time that's been allocated, and go for it. But what we also see is that some students, they know that they're not going to, for example, if a new course starts on in January, they say, we're not going to make it till January, but I'll start in April with a practical course for cooks. For example, if you need to create béarnaise sauce or bechamel, you can't be taught through video or
that's true. Yeah.
In your so next to the theory, there is a practical course. Obviously, they need to be there in person. But for the theoretical, they need to go through all the modules like food safety, etc., and then they need to pass some tests, and then they get an official certificate from the FOD.
The verification.
Verification, a degree, basically. And then with that degree, they can go to the next level. But what I was saying is that now the school is getting more subscriptions of people who are able to learn at their own pace, rather than being rushed to get this done in 10 days or 12 days. For example, people who are currently having a job and they want to do that on top, they want more time, and they can now easily do that. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that answers my question. I see there's one more question and there's limited time, so I suggest you
Are users actively motivated to resume when they opt out of the training? And how does the app engage new users to participate? Very good question, Katrin. So when people are, let's say, new to participate, there is an onboarding process that is starting, so people to get familiar with the app. And so when people are opting out of training, what is built in the platform as well is, well, depending on how the courses are organized, but we have coaching modules so that the teacher, so to speak, can have one-on-ones. So, for example, with language classes, that's very easy. When people feel like, I'm not confident yet, and so basically what they can do is, within the Pocket Coach, they can book a Teams meeting with their mentor or with their teacher, and then from the Pocket Coach, they go to the Teams meeting, whether it be planned or directly live, and after the meeting they go back to the Pocket Coach to continue their lessons. Also, basically, what with the dashboard, what the managers can see is who is taking up on the courses, a classical dashboard functionality, and they can push notifications to people who are a bit behind or slacking. And then thirdly, we have the learning, the social learning communities, where people are contributing and are asking for help or more examples. So there's another way for them to get them back on track. Most of the time, what we see is that people get very enthused with the courses, or because, like I said, we create them in a way that they become that it becomes fun again to learn. And what we see with customers is that their employees, rather, let's say, in the old way, with e-learning or with blended learning or physical learning, what you see is that people are often booked on those courses. It's mandatory for them to follow, and they feel like, oh, I need to go because my boss told me to be there. What we see is the other way around, where people are now following some of the courses on the Pocket Coach. They get enthused, and they start knocking on the door of HR. Hey, can you unlock already the next module? I'm ready to. I've done this. When can I get into the next? What else can I follow? And so HR is really pleasantly surprised that people are asking for more, because obviously when they learn more, they become even a better professional, and then obviously the internal mobility, as Hans was referring to, becomes more and more a direct option. I hope that answers your question, Katrin.
I believe so.
So our platform is also available in a number of languages. So, for example, we have some of the European languages, obviously English, Dutch, French, Spanish, Italian, and so on. But also stranger languages, for example, like Chinese, Tagalog. I'm not sure if you're familiar. In the Philippines, for example, they speak, or a number of people speak Tagalog. So it's deployable worldwide.
Thank you, Bert. For me, it was very inspiring. I think the way you innovate and make the contributions, it's also good for reflection for us, like lecturers at Thomas More University, on how we can incorporate these types of learnings.
Definitely.
Yes. Anyway, thank you very much for to speak here.
Most welcome.
Yes. I hope the students and the participants were also inspired. And I hope to see you all next week.
Okay, thanks. It's time for me to intervene. I think it's time. Maybe I should announce commercials, but that would just be a lousy joke. No, it's a wrap for this week. You can find the video on our YouTube channel. You can also subscribe if you want to see the next episodes. The next episode next week the topic will be productivity and performance. And if you're curious, you can register and be a part of this audience, which I would like to thank also for being a part of this session today. Thanks, Cedric and Bert, for your presentations. Please follow us on our website, and we'll see you next week. See you, everyone. Bye.